everyone, it's Brian here, the UK Bitcoin Master, back with another video in my series Bitcoin for Beginners. Great to have you all with us. Really excited about my special guest tonight, but before we get into that, let's get the intro video underway. Whoa, hello everyone. It's Brian, the UK Bitcoin Master, back with another video in my series, and I'm really excited about tonight's call. It's 1800, 6 p.m. here in the UK. I know it's 8 hours behind us for my guest over there on the west coast of America. He's very kindly agreed to come on the show with me. As always, before we get started, today's Thursday, the 16th of May, 2019, as this goes out live. If you're watching this in the future, down in the right-hand corner, do hit that big subscribe button, like this, share it, get it out there, bash the notification bell so you get notified when I go live with any content. I just want to put a couple of things up before we get going. I don't give financial advice. Please, please, please do not take any of this as financial advice. This is just me being very excited about what I've discovered a couple of years ago, and I just want to share my opinions. If you are going to invest into any type of cryptocurrency, go down the rabbit hole first. Do your own research, draw your own conclusions, and then only when you are satisfied, invest, but only invest into Bitcoin as far as I'm concerned. Don't ever invest what you can't afford to lose. I think that's absolutely crucial. You can check out ukbitcoinmaster.com, where you'll find every video I've ever done. About a year and a bit now, I've been posting a couple of videos a week, and of late, last handful of months, I've been doing a few live shows. So do check those out. Also, check out the notes below. There'll be links relevant to the show, whether that's t-shirts, whether it is registering with Coinbase, LocalBitcoins, everything's down there that you need. So whatever you do, do check out the notes sections below. And finally on this one, if you want to drop a small tip, do it through TippinMe, UK Bitcoin Master. Obviously, you're going to need to know how to do that, and you've got to have your own TippinMe account. So head on over to BTC Sessions. He's done a great video on how to set up TippinMe to be able to make tiny fractions of a Satoshi as a little donation to the cause. It helps us greatly. So that said, I am massively excited to have my guest on the call with me today. Let's hope the technology doesn't let us down. We did lose the show on Monday just before 16 minutes, so I couldn't do anything about it. I tried to get back online. It wouldn't let me. So I'm praying nothing goes wrong tonight. So what I want to do is introduce my guest onto the call. Vortex, are you there, sir?
I am here. Thank you so much for having me, Brian. Really, really appreciate it. And I'm really excited to, to talk to new people into the space about Bitcoin and share the vision and the importance of why Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies is here to change the world.
And you know what? We'll get into the questions in a moment, but we were just discussing off air. You've been involved in this a lot longer than me. I mean, I went down the rabbit hole 2 years ago this month, actually, on the 23rd was when I got my, what I call the phone call, and I didn't know what the guy was going on about, and he was buzzing my head to bits. But, all I want to do, and I'm sure, you're the same, is just get that message out there to anyone that is willing to listen. Would that be about right?
Absolutely. This is when you find something of this importance, of this magnitude, literally, the fifth abstraction of money, the best form of money that humanity has ever had in the history of this planet. You have to be able to share it. When you see all of this fiat currency and all of this shenanigans and all these things going down and all these problems with the world, and you see the root cause, this fiat, the central banking regime, the central banking traditional financial system, you can't help but want to share this new way, this new people's money, this new way of transacting with the rest of the people, because this is the future. Everything is going digital. Soon our money will go digital as well.
Well, I've been following you for probably close to a couple of years since I went down the rabbit hole. Obviously, I saw you on the World Crypto Network. Obviously, now if I just pop this up, you can find Vortex on this particular page. Hang on a second. He's also heading up hopefully you guys can see this, the CryptoCast Network, so you can check out his links right there. So what I want to do now, hopefully the screen is going to split and we're both there. Let's get into some questions for our audience, Vortex. Obviously, keep in mind that this is the Bitcoin for Beginners show. So, whilst you are going to answer the questions, obviously, in your own way, let's keep in mind that what I don't want to do is bamboozle the audience. But of course, I also know there are people on the call that are a bit more seasoned Bitcoiners. So I guess what we have to do is strike a little bit of a balance with that. So let's get into the questions. You don't have to answer this. I thought I'd throw it in there. What was your background before you went down the rabbit hole and discussed Bitcoin? What have you done for a living?
Sure. So really, that's kind of probably how I found Bitcoin a little bit early there back in the fall of 2012 was because of the space that I'm in. And so what I did before Bitcoin was what I'm kind of still doing is essentially a software developer, specifically a web application developer. So I was doing, I guess the even more technical term would be a full stack web application developer, where essentially I programmed the front end and back end of websites. So both, all the pretty HTML, the graphics there, and then as well as the back end code, the C# code that hits the database. And then made the databases as well. So essentially just a full stack web developer in the web design space. There's what I did for better part of almost 20 years, definitely over 15 years at this point. Getting hard to remember them all as I get older and older here. But that was the main, that was kind of my main career. And then of course, when I found Bitcoin, I just couldn't stop talking about it. It took over my Twitter account. It took over my consciousness essentially. And so that is what I've been really focused on. And really, I think about the fall of 2017 is when I just completely went full Bitcoin.
So I've got to ask the question. So were you working away on your day job, let's say, and all of a sudden you discovered this? Did somebody call you about it? How did all that evolve?
Sure. So that came across my purview. I found it on the Slashdot article, because Slashdot is a website, a forum for geeks and for programmers and for IT type of people. They have the latest news on that kind of information. And so I was checking that a couple times a week, maybe once or twice a week. And then, of course, I came across that article on Bitcoin. And then I came across the Gawker article on Silk Road as well. And so that one was even more fascinating to me because the first time I saw it, I didn't really, understand what it was. I thought, just like everybody else, I thought it was another form of internet money, just another form of e-gold, maybe something that you would put in World of Warcraft or something like that. And so, of course, I dismissed it right away and didn't really understand it until I started hearing again and hearing more. And so really into 2013 and 2014, the news just kept coming out and I dived a little bit deeper and deeper and then really started commenting on CoinDesk in 2014 and did that for almost 2 years. At the end of 2015 is when I first started that the Bitcoin News Show on World Crypto Network, and then I've started my own channel there just last year.
Fantastic. So, that led me to a question. I just got it's got to be my age. We were talking about age earlier, weren't we? So, was there a period when you discovered it where initially you were cautious, and then you thought, oh my God, or did you think? I mean, for me, it was when I got a call from my friend and he said, now go and do your research. I got on the internet and instantly it was, oh my God, I got to buy some. A lot of people don't do that. They want to do some research first. How was it for you?
So every person I've ever talked to absolutely did not buy right away. Not Andreas, not Trace, not almost anybody. And even Trace, was buying it around like 35 cents a coin, right? So even he took a good year at least before he started, because he found it almost right away, like 2010. And so I think he took a good year before he started actually looking into it more and further. But remember, of course, Trace is on a whole other level that we are, lawyer, economist, and so on and so forth. I'm just a software developer, so I really didn't quite understand it. So again, I found it in the fall of 2012 and really didn't understand what it was, and probably until 2014, maybe the spring of 2014 is kind of when everything started really clicking for me. When it becomes this as a censorship resistant permissionless value transfer system. This is when it really started clicking in 2014. And so before then, again, just kind of thought it was digital gold. But you see, I was already on the path of understanding where we were going as a society, as a species, with our banking system. Essentially, there is only kind of two paths. One is the complete totalitarian 1984, state that was described there in that book, which is just mass surveillance, mass prison state. And then the other, of course, is a free society. And so really where we're seeing is where what I was seeing is head down this path of totalitarianism. I mean, I knew that there was the root cause of this was the fiat system, was the central banking regime, and so for the longest of time, I had no idea how to help or how we could fix that, or any type of solution to that problem was for the longest of time eluding me until around 2014 when I put two and two together and really started understanding the core principles behind Bitcoin, the ethos, the fact that it has confirmation times to be this real settlement system that can be controlled by the people and not the state. So that's when it really started clicking again, like spring 2014. And it was really since then that I've pretty much devoted my entire life to Bitcoin, quitting my day job in the fall of 2017 to really just go full Bitcoin.
Fantastic. So in terms of anyone new watching this, either live now or in the future, sum up, if you will, in a couple of sentences, if it's possible, what you see Bitcoin achieving in the world. Because I noticed, I read somewhere, it might have been on your Twitter feed, it might have been on one of your sites. You said, I haven't come for the money. I've come for what Bitcoin can do for the world. Just sum that up, if you will, for our audience.
Sure. So, I mean, this kind of goes to the ethos of what Bitcoin is. So essentially there's kind of Bitcoin and then there's blockchain, right? So the blockchain people are out there saying, we can change the world and make the world a better place. And, we can put everything on the blockchain. We can put charity on the blockchain and we can solve the world. But unfortunately, if you look at how the world actually works, and if you look at the history, if you look at the world monetary policy and how it changes every 50 years, if you look at the history and see how we got to where we are with this fiat system, you would see that this world that we live in for the past century is entirely different than what we've had for the many centuries before that, in the sense of this fiat regime system, this addiction to printing money, this addiction to a paycheck every 2 weeks, this addiction to plastic. These types of things simply didn't exist prior to this fiat system. It was very well understood that you use the wealth of yesterday to build your future of tomorrow, and people understood that it was saving. So we had things like gold standards and silver standards, and but the system that we live in today is entirely different. So for me, that's kind of the crux, the importance, the ethos, the community, the understanding that what we are here to do. And what we are here to do, people like myself and yourself, I think as well, is we are here to steal fire from the gods. We are here to bring money back to the people. We are here to stop the power that the central banking regime has taken through coercion, through fraud, through murder, through war, over and over again, century after century. We are here to take that power away and give it back to the people. That's what Bitcoin is here. That's what Bitcoin represents to me, is this permissionless value transfer system, this decentralized monetary system and payment network outside the control of any nation state, of any bank, of any government, of any central bank. And so this is the power of the Bitcoin. This is the promise that Bitcoin holds. Now, of course, as today, it is a very small system, but even at 7 transactions per second, you could actually build an open central banking or open decentralized banking system on top of Bitcoin with putting layers on top of that. And of course, we're seeing that. We can get into that about Lightning Network. But essentially, this base layer, this is what the most important layer is. This settlement, this final settlement system. Bitcoin is the world's final settlement. And this is what's important to understand, is that we are here. The people who understand Bitcoin understand that Bitcoin doesn't compete with altcoins. Bitcoin doesn't compete with blockchain. Bitcoin competes with gold. Bitcoin competes with central banks. Bitcoin competes with the ICB. Bitcoin competes with the ECB, the European Central Bank. It competes with the Federal Reserve. It competes with these types of things. The BIS, right? The Bank of International Settlements, the New York Fed clearing system on Wall Street. This is what Bitcoin competes with. This actual monetary system with a payment network attached to it is really the crux of what makes Bitcoin and what makes it different from everything else.
Which is so powerful what you've just said, because we are out there trying to educate people on where Bitcoin's going, but of course people are just hearing us, or people like me, talking about you got to get some Bitcoin. Then they hear someone like you that goes, whoa, way over the top of that. This is, I've read the Bitcoin Standard. I'm on my second time of reading it. Actually, I listen on Audible. And, for me, I had to go back and find the history of money and what you just said about the wars that were created and, all that type of stuff. And it's just blew my mind. You talk about going down the rabbit hole, all in Bitcoin. You know, I'm all in Bitcoin. I'm not interested in altcoins. You know, they'll have their place. There'll be a top tier set of altcoins. That's absolutely fine. They can do what they need to do. But Bitcoin is Bitcoin, isn't it? There is nothing. I don't think there's going to be, you know, a Bitcoin that replaces Bitcoin. As Adam Meister says, you know, Bitcoin is Bitcoin. It's the next Bitcoin. I'm sure you would agree with that.
Yeah, so essentially, Bitcoin is our one and only true shot at a decentralized store of value outside of the power of the state, outside of the power of the nation-state monetary policy. So with that in mind, then you can start to see with this finite supply the actual intention of Bitcoin. With its finite supply, its open source code, its stock to flow ratio design with the halving every 4 years and the difficulty adjustments every 2 weeks, it starts to paint a very, very clear picture of what it's trying to do, a very clear picture of intent. And what it's trying to do is it's trying to become the world's new clearing system. This is the world's clearing system. And beyond that, it is, of course, open. So because of that, you can program it, which means this is the world's first programmable money. And when you have the most secure monetary policy on the world's most secure payment network with the world's most open programmable system, open programmable application platform, you can essentially see why Bitcoin is completely set apart from the rest. You can start to see why and pull the layers back of the onion and start to see why Bitcoin is worth the most out of all the other cryptocurrencies. You see, no other cryptocurrency, again, is even attempting to compete with Bitcoin because they understand its network effects. They understand that it's here to stay. They understand its laser focus on unstoppable money. There is nothing else that is trying to be an unstoppable money. And in fact, blockchains like Ethereum would not exist without the unstoppable money and the unstoppable properties of Bitcoin. Because remember, Ethereum, of course, was funded with Bitcoin. They had the world's first ICO essentially. So this is what people need to kind of be. This is why we kind of need to reel back the message back in here. This is why I only follow one account on Twitter, the Federal Reserve, to remind people of why we're here, what Bitcoin is truly competing with, who we're trying to whose lives we're actually trying to change, and how do we get there? Do we do it through force? Do we do it through coercion? Do we do it through corruption? No, that is how the traditional system grows. And if you look at just recently, there's just even more articles where a couple of banks just got fined another $1 billion. That's not going to stop. That's not going to slow down. The central banks are going to continue to defraud the people, defraud the everyday customers, defraud everyday citizens, take their money through inflation, whatever means possible. So that means through inflation, through outright theft, through taxation. It doesn't matter. The point is that that system has only one goal, and that is to take from the people. Bitcoin has only one goal, that is to grow, and that is to grow by and for the people. And so as long as you believe in Bitcoin, the value of Bitcoin, Bitcoin will be unstoppable, because that's all it is at the end of the day, that we're playing this massive multiplayer online game that we call life, that we call being a human in this massive multiplayer game. There is territory to take, there is statistics to count, and you will see the scoreboard. And the scoreboard right now, of course, is that Bitcoin is 1, fiat is 0, right? There is nothing that can compete with it. So essentially what's left then is just time. It is just time for the world to understand, and during that time, we're going to have some heavy volatility ahead. But as you know, Bitcoin doesn't go like this. Bitcoin goes like this, right? So it goes up. It does have volatility, but it is always eventually going up, and that again is because of its sound monetary policies enforced by the people and their full nodes.
Well, I got to tell you something, people. If you don't pound that flipping like button for what you've just heard, what is wrong with you? Guys, I can't look at the chat. I've just got too much going on here. But blimey. I mean, I think I've got passion when I deliver my shows, but it's not. It is passion on, what I've seen so far, and I just want to exude that passion. But what Vortex has just done is taken that to a whole new dimension. And it's like, oh my God, I just want to go and get a load more Bitcoin. As if I haven't got enough, I want to get a load more. So you guys that are watching this, as I've always said, and I'll say again, you are never going to see Bitcoin at the price it's been over the previous month, because I'm going to pick up on what Vortex just said. And he was saying, it goes up and up, but it's doing that. It's almost like it goes forward 10 steps, back 6. But but it's forward, 4 forward, another 10 back 6, another 10 back 6. It is always moving upwards, and it's never going to go back. And I wholeheartedly believe we will never, ever, ever see a $4,000 Bitcoin ever again once this bull run really grabs hold. Now, at the moment, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we could still bob along, here and there, a couple of grand either side for the rest of this year. I think we've got the halving coming up in 2020. Of course, if you look back at history, and I wasn't involved then, but history tells us that, the real big bull run tends to come a year or so after the halving. If that does happen, oh my God, hold on to your seats for 2021, that's for sure. But Vortex, are you with me in terms of once Bitcoin really goes again, we'll never see it drop back to 3,000 or 4,000?
Sure. So it's definitely hard to make price predictions, especially with Bitcoin. Obviously, it is by its nature volatile, as it is sucking in the world's value 1 year at a time, and it of course has its finite supply. So that sort of all but guarantees it being a store of value over time. So essentially, what we can predict is that Bitcoin will be higher in the future. And now, as far as actual price predictions, I've given a few. I don't give too many, but I've certainly given a few. And so essentially, what I'm looking at right now is that we will be bouncing between 5 and 10K this year, bouncing back and forth there, doing a little bit of sideways volatility action there. But going into next year is when we can really start doing those stair steps. And what the stair step is we have these little accumulation phases, and then a pop, and then an accumulation phase, and then a pop. And what we do is we do that all the way up until everybody and the rest of the world joins in, and then we have a parabolic blow off. So essentially what I'm looking at right now is 5 to 10K by the end of this year. We're looking at new all-time highs going into next year, either in the middle or at the end of the year, sometime next year, new all-time highs, which will then in 2021 push us to that new parabolic blow-off. Now, this parabolic blow-off, of course, just like every other parabolic rally in Bitcoin, will be larger than the previous. So the previous, of course, took us from 1,200 to 20,000. And I believe that this one will absolutely take us well over 100,000. And that is, again, projected to be around the fall of 2021. Now, in addition to, of course, just that ridiculous price ratio, there is so much technology backing up that value. This is not just a Ponzi scheme. This is not just speculation. There is real-world activity and real-world technology and real-world network effects constantly traversing this planet, constantly working in the background. We're sight unseen, where people have their heads down, developing and building the rails, the actual infrastructure that people are going to use for centuries and centuries to come. Now, again, just getting back to that previous point in the last question, Bitcoin is our only chance at a store of value outside the power of the monetary system, the standard nation state. So if Bitcoin fails, then essentially we will have no store of value. We might have many currencies outside of the state, but the ability to actually store your wealth for your children and your children's children without the fear of having it being taxated or inflated away will be gone. Now, with Bitcoin, we still have that chance. And of course, we can always reboot another coin or take the UTXO set and maybe fork that to another chain. But one thing is for certain is that Bitcoin is here to stay. The idea of it is not going away. Now, this will lead to the world's largest wealth transfer on recorded history. The last biggest wealth transfers, of course, was oil, and then after that it was electricity and then silicon. This is going to be the largest one yet. This is going to be a transfer from traditional value and assets into this new digital scarcity, this brand new digital asset that literally did not exist 10 years ago. This is the first new asset class in over 40 years. This is going to take the world by storm. Now, again, when you factor into the fact that it is a store of value, the fact that it is limited supply, the fact that it has an amazing stock to flow ratio, better than even gold, which means that it doesn't matter how much Bitcoin is worth today. It could be worth $1, it could be worth $10,000, but the exact same amount of Bitcoin will be produced every single day, which means that you cannot print or inflate it away, which means that the actual stock to flow ratio will be eventually completely higher than gold's, which means that the scarcity will be absolutely more rare than gold. And we're on track right now with 4% inflation, but after the next halving will be under 3%. And then the halving after that, it will be the most rare asset on the planet with the most utility. Now, that will guarantee its value as long as we continue to keep Bitcoin, keep evolving Bitcoin. And Bitcoin, if you look at the amount of code that gets uploaded to the repo every single day. This thing just doesn't stop. We have new BIP, which is Bitcoin improvement proposals. We have a bunch of them ready to go that are being looked at right now. Some of which are upgrades that are vastly more important than SegWit even. So something like with the Taproot and Schnorr upgrade, that is coming, and that will provide scalability and usability and utility beyond anything that we've seen currently. But one thing is for sure, when you look at the underlying, you can see that with all of the network effects simultaneously happening with Wall Street, with speculation, with exchanges, with remittance, with this application programming layer that is Bitcoin, this programmable money, you can see that this will be the future.
I'm exhausted. That is awesome. What you're doing is really bringing everything together I constantly talk about on my shows from a lower level perspective. And again, for you guys that are just watching this as a Bitcoin for Beginners show now or in the future, I think what you're hearing loud and clear here from somebody that really is down the rabbit hole. He's made it his career. He knows so much. I watch your shows, and a lot of it when you have your guests on is way over my head, but it gives me enough inspiration to know that I am in the right place. Now, the question I've got to ask you is, obviously, as Bitcoin grows, it is going to get resistance, isn't it? There are massive governments and institutions that really don't want this thing to take hold. How do you see that playing out? What can you see? I mean, they say that the only real way to stop Bitcoin is to turn the internet and the electricity off. I mean, now you can move Bitcoin through satellites, I believe. So, how do you see that playing out? Is that what's affecting volatility? Because, when I first got in, I heard about Silk Road. And if you don't know what Silk Road is, guys, just Google it put it into YouTube and it will come up, or Google. And when things happen like the Mt. Gox hacks and things, it crashed prices. Well, we've had the Binance issue recently, and it was barely a blip in the road. So I guess I'm asking the question, are we getting more near to governments trying to stop it? Or do you think governments are trying to embrace it to, when I say help themselves, I mean, are they getting to a point now where we are not going to be able to stop this thing? So how do we utilize it best for us? I mean, you've got JP Morgan coin and the like. Sort of explain to the audience a bit how you see all that playing out.
Sure. So I would say about until the year maybe 2016, Bitcoin really was kind of more of an experiment. And you could argue today that the internet is still an experiment. But really, Bitcoin was very much in its experimental stage. However, in 2017, after we activated SegWit, Bitcoin became a real player, a real asset class. It was really understood that this is something that can stand the test of time. And it is true that the government and the central banking system is the final boss. They together collude. They together have policies that help each other. And essentially, they are married. I mean, this is why the separation of money and state is at the heart of the Bitcoin culture and ethos. So this is absolutely something that we're looking forward to. Now, am I worried about it? And I would say at this point, absolutely not. I think I'd stopped worrying after SegWit got activated, because at that point, the network itself did become too decentralized, and the actual asset was in the pockets of too many people. So the incentive was too strong to ever see it go down. So essentially, at this point, Bitcoin is too big to fail, right? Essentially, except instead of fail the banks, right, and fail the institutions, it would fail the people if it actually failed. But now this system, this decentralized, open, global, monetary system that has a payment network attached to it that is available and accessible to all now is simply too big, too distributed to ever shut down. Now, something that is a little bit worrying, of course, I'll mention is internet segregation. Obviously, that could slow down the adoption of Bitcoin in various areas around the world. For example, China has its big the Great Firewall, right? The Great Firewall of China.
Yeah.
And so there is sometimes, and of course North Korea. And so there is some of these, there is some internet segregation going around. However, I don't see that as too much of a problem right now, because eventually the free market usually always wins. I mean, the free market will win. Your country, if you try to cut it off, will absolutely fail. And we've seen this, of course, with countries like North Korea. If you look over there at night, you'll see that South Korea is this huge, tons of light, and you look at North Korea, it's all black except for the central city, right? This is the end result of something like communism. This is the end result of something like totalitarianism. It just doesn't grow. And so You need an actual real capitalism, and not the Wall Street financial capitalism that we have today, but actual real capitalism that we experienced with the gold standard. So the power of this decentralization, you essentially can't shut Bitcoin off. Now, like you say, now we have satellites. So now, in addition to the terrestrial internet, you can actually broadcast and receive blocks with the satellite system. Now that means you don't actually need a local internet connection. So that is going to be big, and I think that a lot more people are going to be piggybacking off of that. Right now, there's only one company managing that, which is Blockstream. Blockstream, of course, is one of the number one players in the space when it comes to developing Bitcoin technology. But this is a bit concerning to have only one company. So the idea is for them to get started and open source it. So they have open sourced a lot of the code for this, and I believe that other competitors will want to take advantage of that. And so that there will be more people, because remember, it's very similar to Facebook trying to build out the internet around the world, because the more internet means more profit and revenue for Facebook. So this is essentially the same kind of thing. Blockstream is very heavily invested in Bitcoin, and so they want to see the success of Bitcoin, and so they invested in another way to make sure that Bitcoin succeeds. Now, also, I think it's really important to remember that whenever you think that, maybe all the governments around the world will ban Bitcoin, understand that the governments don't get along like that. Yes, we have things like United Nations and the Bank of International Settlements. That doesn't mean that every single government works with every other single government very closely and very perfectly. It doesn't mean that they share this I guess you could say this coherent vision. It's not even close to that. If there was ever any country that attempted to ban Bitcoin, I can absolutely guarantee that there will be another country that will take the other side of that bet. This is the way the world works because of Bitcoin's incentive structure. You cannot overcome the power of greed. Human greed is, or another word for, and that's maybe it sounds bad, but another word for saying it's like basically, human incentive. You cannot stop somebody from trying to eat. You cannot stop somebody from trying to protect their family. This is human incentive. And so if you tell me that this country is cutting off the most valuable and greatest form of money that humanity has ever seen, well, then I'll go to a country that supports it, because there will be a country that supports it because of that incentive. So essentially, Bitcoin's incentive structure and game theory ensures its survivability. And again, just to wrap it up, at this point, Bitcoin is in the pockets of far too many people to ever try to completely, for example, ban it across the world, which really, again, isn't possible.
Well, on Monday's show, guys, tune in for Monday's show, because I'm going to run a short 1.5 minute video clip that I think you'll find really interesting. And based on what Vortex has just been talking about, I mean, here we've got a member of parliament actually stands up. I found it on the internet, and he literally stands up. I think he's at the European Parliament, and he literally says governments are corrupt. They are totally corrupt. That's just the ethos of that video. But tune in for Monday's show to watch it, because he's quite damning about the governments, and they do want to control us. They do want to control the money supply, inflate the money supply. Bitcoin, as Vortex has alluded to, finite supply, 21 million, 2141, the last Bitcoins will be mined. There won't be any more. Yes, you can go on about fractional reserve and what some of them want to do, but there will only be 21 million coins. We know something like 3 million are lost. So in existence, maybe there's going to be about 17 or 18 million Bitcoins. So I can't encourage you all enough. Start accumulating, stacking sats, as we're hearing now. Satoshis are fractions of a Bitcoin, by the way, for those really new. And just set up a dollar cost averaging account. Take maybe 10% of your salary, your wages, every week, every month, every fortnight, however you're paid, and just accumulate some Bitcoin. I think we're going back to the old savings now. I think Bitcoin is really educating people again on savings, except instead of savings in the bank where you're going to get diddly squat at the end of the year, if you get a Bitcoin savings account, you have got the ability to potentially change your kids' and grandkids' futures. I think that's fair to say. So we've talked a lot, and I haven't even looked at the questions, but I think we wrapped a load of the questions up in the conversation. So would you say you're a Bitcoin maximalist? And there's different definitions for what a maximalist is. I mean, for me personally, if you want to call me a maximalist, I only care about Bitcoin. That is it. So it runs deeper than that, doesn't it? But for me, I'm a maximalist. What about you?
Sure. So, I mean, before I answer that, let me just also point out just, the importance because what you talked about with the parliament coming up and straight up saying the government is fraud. Remember that people have been trying to whistleblow this for many years. We have the Manning, incidents. We have Snowden papers. We have Assange. We have this proof. The Ecuadorian government handing over Julian Assange for that $4.1 billion, payout from the IMF, right? Yeah. Like we see the corruption. We see how the central banks and the nation states are very, very, very interwoven at this point. And because of that, because they are controlling the money, they are colluding, they are creating this terrible amount of corruption that is hurting many, many millions of people around the world. Now, we can see this war on cash intensifying. We can see them removing denominations of cash fiat. We can see them trying to remove the $100 bill. In the United States, we see them trying to remove the various other currencies in India, and so on and so forth. We see the negative interest rates now across the world. We see the fractional reserve bankings. We see the derivatives. Remember, all of that stuff is on the fiat system. You can try to build some rehypothecation, some derivatives on top of Bitcoin, but that does not affect the underlying asset. That is a difference because gold and fiat are all paper at this point in the planet. So They can be 100% manipulated. You can try to build derivatives and try to build paper Bitcoin all you want. That's not going to affect my full node. My full node is still going to enforce the rules that make Bitcoin, what I think is Bitcoin. So just remember that for all the people that are afraid of Wall Street and things like that, that's simply just one network effect. Bitcoin is the best form of money we've ever had, and money touches everything. So Bitcoin will, of course, touch everything. The amount of upside on Bitcoin, again, is absolutely astronomical because this is the world's largest wealth transfer. Bitcoin really does add a zero every couple of years. So that is why we do ask that you just put a little bit into Bitcoin. And remember, the more you put in, the more you'll actually learn. So we want to say, the amount of Bitcoin you should put in, the amount of money you should invest is relative to how much time and energy you want to put into this. So if you just want to learn a little bit, just put $100 in. If you want to learn a lot, put $1,000 in, and on it goes. So that is what the points we really want to stress, guys, is that, this is a limited, there's a limited time for people to be able to get in with Bitcoin and actually have generational wealth. There's a limited supply for that, as there always is with every wealth transfer. There is a limited time for that. But then eventually, of course, you'll benefit from Bitcoin anyway. You see, I didn't invest in Facebook or Amazon or the internet, but yet I benefit from it every single day, right? So that will be true with Bitcoin. Even if you don't invest in it, it will help this planet beyond you could ever imagine. I mean, the free trade that this will allow will push us into a new golden age. Now, when it comes to Bitcoin maximalism and those types of things, for me, that's mostly politics, which I don't really get into too much. I've never actually self-proclaimed to be a Bitcoin maximalist, nor will I ever be. If you want to call me anything, you can call me a sound monetary policy maximalist. Maybe I'll accept that. But at the end of the day, for me, the only reason why I'm here is Bitcoin, because I believe that is the only solution to the systemic issue that is the central banking regime. And so that is what I'm here to promote and what I'm here to talk about. Now, there has been many, attacks, political attacks on Bitcoin, and I believe that this whole maximalism is one of those attacks. Because again, the term Bitcoin maximalist was coined by Vitalik Buterin, the creator of Ethereum, and so it was a very negative connotation. But of course, the people took it up and say, hey, they took it up as their own, and that's fine. Hey, do what you want to do. But at the end of the day, I'm not here to say the word shitcoin 8 million times. I don't say that. I say altcoin. Because who am I to judge? What you believe to be a sound money. But at the end of the day, I can promote what I believe to be sound money. And so that is what I do.
How do I answer that? That's incredible. Listen, on this particular show, I could have just literally said, right, guys, it's over to Vortex, away you go, and you take the show, because it's just incredible. I mean this sincerely. You inspire me when I watch your weekly shows, but this is just inspiring me like you can't believe. If it's not inspiring you in the chat, you need to go and find some other person that wants to talk about, let's say, altcoins, because this is the Bitcoin show. My channel is the Bitcoin for Beginners show. I will not discuss alternative coins on my show. I just want to get people to understand, as Vortex has rightly said, Bitcoin is very subtly going to change the world. It's so subtle that most people won't see it coming. It will gradually change. I also believe that for those of us that are into Bitcoin right now, into meaning you understand a little bit what it is, you follow this channel, maybe Vortex is, you should follow his channel, or the CryptoCast Network, you can see it behind him. Adam Meister, those types of people, Trace Mayer, Simon Dixon, those types of people, they are always going to talk to you about sound money, about hard money, about Bitcoin being the coin that has got the most chance of changing the world. And I implore you all, 2 years ago, I knew nothing about Bitcoin. Now, I don't know as much as this young man, but by God have I learned so much, and by God is it exciting. Go down the rabbit hole, guys. Look, we can all choose to watch rubbish TV in the evenings after work, or get onto YouTube and watch a couple of educational videos. That's all I chose to do. And for me, it's reinvigorated me. It's made me feel 10 years younger. It really has, because it's just the most exciting thing I've ever come across. Back to the questions. So we know that Bitcoin is sort of clunky still. It will eventually become mainstream, and I feel, and maybe you'll put a different spin on this, Vortex, but I feel it will get to a point, maybe when I'm not here, that it will be as simple as when you swipe your credit card and you pay for something, you'll do that in Bitcoin. But what I have noticed in the couple of years that I've been involved is more and more people now are buying it and hodling it or holding it because of the store of value aspect. Where do you see that going? Do you see it being the store of value, the replacement of gold? Are you a little bit more standoffish than that? Where do you see it going?
Sure. So just the first quick point is that, I think it is important to understand that, what Brian said about making this reinvigorate you and make this whole space making you feel young, because the reason why that is, I just want to touch on that. The reason why that is because you are in fact making a difference, and you are making the world a better place, and that. And so that is, nobody can tell you that. Nobody can come up to you and say and convince you that, what, Brian, you're making a difference. Only you can know that. And when you know that, then that's what makes you feel good. And so I just want to illustrate, that is why people like myself feel good. That is why Brian feels good, because we know that we are making a difference. And remember, anybody can do this. This is open. This is accessible. Satoshi created a system that is so open that anybody, and I mean anybody, can now have the security that only billionaires could afford less than 10 years ago. Yeah. So this is powerful, and this is accessible, and this is open, and this is the only system that I believe can actually change the world and fulfill the promises that a lot of these blockchain companies are saying that they can. Now, regarding Bitcoin, as a store of value, Bitcoin, of course, as it stands today, is the store of value of all of crypto. So essentially, we see all of these assets that are almost 100% correlated. If Bitcoin goes up, the rest goes up. If Bitcoin goes down, everything goes down. So we simply see everything in the space constantly correlated to Bitcoin, year after year after year. Now, yes, there's these little spikes, like when the ICO craze happened. Of course, altcoins became a little bit more popular for a few months. But overall, you can see that Bitcoin, this is the store of value. Everything, you must have Bitcoin to be able to get into anything when it comes to the crypto and Bitcoin space. So you need to have Bitcoin to get Ethereum. You need to have Bitcoin, to play with anything else. And so this is what's very, very, very important. The people that are working in the space are getting paid in Bitcoin. So it's already the store of value. With Lightning Network, of course, and as we move up the stack, this can become an actual medium of exchange. And that is absolutely what we are working towards, because the first and most difficult problem was the base layer, the actual settlement system.
Lightning. That was one of my questions. So talk about Lightning,
Yeah, so that was the most important, is getting that base layer down, getting that base layer secure and decentralized and rock solid. Now we have that. So now the next step, of course, is building it up the stack. And then the next part of the stack would be Lightning Network. Now, again, this is simply what we did with the internet. We did the exact same thing. So with the internet, it was just very, very slow stagnation, almost, I guess you could say. There wasn't a whole lot of activity for decades almost, until finally in the 1990s, the HTTP protocol was created. And when that was created, people could start building now websites up on top of that would not affect the underlying TCP/IP protocol, that would not break the internet. Anybody could make a website and not break the internet. Now what we have is we're doing that with Bitcoin. So instead of working on the protocol layer, which is only really reserved for a select few individuals that can actually even have the capacity to do such a thing, up the layer, that's where I live, is up the layer in the application stack, because as what I'm an application developer, not a protocol developer. We build applications up the stack in the next layer, which is Lightning. So we have the base layer, layer 1, and then Lightning is layer 2. And we're going to build many more layers above this so that we can essentially service the most amount of people with the most amount of utility at any given time. So again, this is all based on distributed networks. This is based on the network, the internet itself, and how we built out the internet with something called the OSI, which is this 7-layer model, starting from the physical hardware and ending all the way up to the top of the application stack. So we're going to do something very similar that we did with the internet with Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is the internet of money. We're going to build up the stack. Now, Lightning Network is that second layer. That's the big layer that we're working on right now. And there is huge amounts of activity with this. The actual amount of Lightning Network channels are growing exponentially. So last time I checked, there's over 35,000 channels. And if you look at pictures from what it was just a year ago, the actual visual imagery is staggering. It is when you see the amount of connections and the amount of channels that are open at any given time from just a year ago. It is absolutely fascinating, absolutely jaw-dropping. And remember, this is just early days. Lightning Network is still in beta. They literally launched on mainnet just last spring. So we're still in beta. Now we're looking to leave beta sometime next year, or maybe 2021 at the latest. We're going to leave beta. We're going to remove any of the limits that was on there and open it up to the public. So similar to how the internet, in the 90s, the web, before you could actually put commerce on there, it was kind of slow. It was growing, but it was kind of slow. But then as soon as the ability to have commerce was on there, boom, right, it exploded. So this is what's going to happen with Lightning. As soon as Lightning Network is ready to onboard the planet, you will see an absolutely exponential growth. And where I'm predicting the knee of that hockey stick curve of Lightning Network growth should be around 2021, 2022. And so from there, we go absolutely almost straight up with the exponentiality there. So that is going to be, pretty crazy. That's what I'm expecting with Lightning Network. The BTC-LN stack is simply what the entire world is coalescing around now, similar to how the whole world coalesced around TCP/IP. But remember, these network upgrades, these things take time. We didn't have HD video, right, until the mid 2000s. Yep. People are like, people who want Bitcoin to have like 1,000 transactions a second at the base layer just simply don't understand technologies, distributed networks, and computer science. That would be like saying, I want my Netflix to stream 4K in 1995. Why couldn't you guys make that happen? Come on. Well, why are you guys slowing? What's going on? So of course, when you understand, the intricacies of what's going on here, it becomes a little difficult, because Bitcoin is the intersection of all of these things. Computer science, mathematics, cryptography, distributed networks, finance, and economics, and on it goes. So of course, I don't even pretend to be an expert. Really, I don't. I try to tell people that we're all still learning about what Bitcoin is, because it does take time. So again, for me, Bitcoin is the absolute store of value. And with Lightning becoming this interoperable application layer above Bitcoin that can connect anything else to Bitcoin, we are in for a pretty amazing ride. Again, Bitcoin is the store of value. It is the medium of exchange. It is the unit of account for the entire crypto space. And one day it will be for the world.
Well, I want to come back to something you said earlier. I watched your show at the weekend. I can't think what the guests you had on, but you were saying that people want it to go fast. We want it to go slow. We want it to go slow, and we want it to do it to develop properly. Not go fast and break stuff. Go slow and develop it properly so it doesn't break. That's about right, isn't it? I think
absolutely. Cryptography is hard. People need to understand that this stuff is absolutely difficult, trying to build things at scale and keeping it decentralized and censorship resistant, because anybody can go throw up a SQL database on an Amazon web server and have a private blockchain. Anybody can do that. This is a $150 billion+ network that is completely decentralized, running on technology that is run on computers, millions of people's computers, not Amazon's computers, people's computers. And so, what I'd like to say real quick is that, Bitcoin right now, for the first 10 years, it's going to be a store of value. But the next 10 years, it's going to become a medium of exchange and the internet of money.
Wow. Awesome. I just want to, if I can, say to everybody, pound that like button, people, for Adam Meister, who's in the house. Great to have you with us, Meister. Vortex, this has been superb. I'm hoping the audience have got something from this. I certainly have. I want to start to wrap it up. We're 50 minutes in. I think, I don't want people to go brain dead and get fidgety behinds. Let's start to pull this together. I was going to ask you how you see the bull runs of the future playing out, but you answered that a while back, so we don't need to go into that. What advice would you give? Now, I'm now talking to brand new people. Somebody gave them a call and said, get some Bitcoin. What advice would you give to brand new people, either that have just entered the space and have maybe caught this video a few years in the future or whatever, or people that are thinking of getting into Bitcoin? Give them some sound advice, please.
So really, the best thing you can do, of course, is just go to read the white paper. It really isn't that actual technical. It's only 8 pages long. And so I think most people really do underestimate their own intelligence and really can grasp this stuff if they read the white paper. But fortunately, there are many podcasters like yourself in the space that now have just thousands of hours of content that you can go and look back on. So I would say first, read the white paper, then maybe check out a quick little 3-minute video like on Bitcoin.org. Something like that, and then start following some of these podcasters that you recommend and start to discern for yourself. Because remember, the only person at the end of the day that can convince you is you. And so you are going to have to be the one to take responsibility. And this is what Bitcoin is about. Is again, part of this ethos is don't trust, verify, take responsibility. As Bitcoin, as the Bitcoin Meister, Adam Meister, likes to say, responsibility, right, is the new counterculture. Like this is what we need. This to take responsibility for our own problems and for our money.
Coins.
And of course, not your keys, not your coin. So very, very important. And of course, it goes beyond that too, where not your network, not your Bitcoin. And so it's also important to run a full node. But yes, that's a little bit more technical than not your keys, not your coin. But we do try to say that not your keys, not your coin, not your network, not your Bitcoin. So hold your own private keys and run a full node because the software to be able to do this is becoming easier and easier. But one day, don't worry, and this will all be built in to your operating system, just like TCP/IP is now. I would like to remind your audience that TCP/IP was not always built into the operating system. In Windows 3.1, you had to download a TCP/IP stack from one of the competing open source developments out there, compile that, then set up that software, then download and compile a web browser, and then configure the web browser, and then you might be able to get on the internet. So that's how things used to be. It was very difficult. But now, of course, it's all baked in and built in by default. So too will Bitcoin and Lightning. It'll be in your browser. It'll be in your television. It'll be on your Windows operating system. It'll be everywhere. This just takes time. It's only been 10 years, and it took the internet, 20, 30. It took the web, a good 20 years to go mainstream. But the internet itself was been around since the 70s. So it does take time. I'd like to remind people that this is very early days still, and there's still a lot of upside and opportunity left. But as far as getting into Bitcoin, it's really important to do what you love because Bitcoin can help you do that. Remember, Bitcoin essentially just is money, right? So do what you love, but do it with Bitcoin. So if you are a graphic designer, and maybe you want to earn some Bitcoin that way, do some designs about Bitcoin, maybe that Bitcoiners will like and get into it that way. If some of the designers in the space even push technology forward. So we have people like Crypto Graffiti that through his art project auctioned off the world's cheapest art drawing in history, because what he did he utilized the Lightning Network to go to almost sub-Satoshi value, so that he actually auctioned it off for the least amount of money possible. This is technologically impossible just a couple of years before. So even artists are pushing, the space forward. So it's very important to understand that you can do whatever you want to do. Just do what you love and do it with Bitcoin.
Fantastic. Vortex, thank you so much for being on the show today. And again, if I just pop this up, guys, I would implore you all, whoops, I don't know what's happened there, but head on over to Vortex's, hold on, CryptoCast Network. For some reason, that's gone small. But head on over there and just check out his weekly shows. They are absolutely fantastic. They really are. I'm just going to wrap the show up, if I may, as I always do. I just want to give a shout out for justlearnbitcoin.com. Let's pop that up on the desktop for a moment. Hold on. Justlearnbitcoin.com. It's an incredible site that offers so much for new people into the space. As you can see, it talks about their services, the trading courses, why own Bitcoin. This is just another resource, really, for learning about Bitcoin. So head over there and have a look. They've got loads of stuff over there. I'm really proud to say that they've become my sponsor of this show. So thank you for that. What I would say say is, if you head over to justlearnbitcoin.com, they will help you with anything from, wallet setup and backup, whether it's the best long-term storage solution for you, whether it's coin splitting airdrops, questions about mining, literally anything. They will help you on, justlearnbitcoin.com. So do head on over there. I want to pop a quote up. I love my quotes. And I think this one from Victor Hugo is really, really powerful. I can't centralize that. I think I messed all that up, but not to worry, guys. Basically, there is one thing stronger than all the armies in the world, and that is an idea whose time has come. He said it slightly different. I think that really sums up what we've discussed on this 55 minutes. You are not going to stop Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin. Go down the rabbit hole. Like Vortex said, find a way that you can contribute to this ecosystem. And like me, you'll end up getting more and more excited as time goes on. Vortex, thanks for being on the show, my friend. It's been great to have you with me for the first time. I've obviously put up where the guys can find you. Do you want to add anything to that, where they can find you?
Sure, yeah, it's been a great time. Of course, I always love educating people about Bitcoin, whether they're new or even novice in the space, because again, we're all still learning. So really, I guess I just plug my Twitter account and my YouTube channel. This is where you'll find the bulk of my work, and where I find the bulk of my consciousness these days is on Twitter, twitter.com/the1vortex, all spelled out, the one vortex. And then my YouTube channel, the CryptoCast Network. You can just Google that or just go to cryptocast.network.
Absolutely superb. So to wrap the show up, guys, thanks for being on. Thanks for all of your support. Pound the like button, like this video, share it, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell button. Follow me on Twitter at UK Bitcoin Master. Follow Vortex as well. Great stuff there. You're not getting knocking and slagging other people. It's just, good, honest Bitcoin stuff. I think that's what we want to create. I see too much of this, Bitcoin Twitter where everyone wants to slag everyone and be rude to everyone. And I don't think it helps the ecosystem. I really don't. So you won't get that from my Twitter channel. I know you won't get it from Vortex's. Again, this video's gone live on BitBacker.io, BitTube, DTube, Steemit. If you're on Steemit, give us an upvote and a re-steam. I would greatly appreciate it. Vortex, finally, thank you for being on the call, my friend. Have yourself a great day. I know it's earlier for you. I'm out of here. Cheers, everyone. Until Monday. Take care. Adios. We're out of here. Bye for now.